Good morning and welcome to this edition of DMS 3000 News Live. It's episode 28 for July 24th, 2023. Well, I hope you had a fantastic weekend and you enjoyed the great segments of information with Brandon Martin last week. I know the guy overslept, the man overslept on our Wednesday show, but sometimes that happens, folks. We get to the point in our lives where we have to kind of rest and say to ourselves, do we need to really get some sleep, much needed sleep? But he came back strong the last 2 days, gave you some great information, and we'll see him, of course, on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. So don't worry about it, Brandon. You get your much needed rest, and we'll see you later on in the week. As for today, folks, well, we are at the end of July. I tell you, July has gone so fast. We have had so much going on. And once 4th of July came, and it's been like that for the last 20 years that I have seen this, that once 4th of July passes, the rest of the summer goes by so quickly that school kids don't even know that in 3 weeks, well, actually less than 2 weeks, they have to go back to school. Not the kids in the Northeast. They still have another month of August to go. So anyways, the summer is winding down. We're getting ready for the fall months. That means football season, hockey season, basketball season, and of course, the launching of the David 3000 fall schedule, which we're going to be holding meetings all next week. So for all of you guys out there who want to know, we have meetings on the 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th. They're 5 weeks, and they happen every Tuesday night during the month of August at 8 o'clock. Come to the meeting, see what it's all about. And if you have a show or an idea that you would like to pitch to us to get onto that fall lineup, which starts September 4th, we launched that first show of weeks of shows Labor Day week. So if you can get on there before that, you have a great time to promote your show and do a lot of great things. So next week or next month is going to be super busy for the David 3000 network. But we got a show to get on right now. I'll talk a little bit about that more in the editorial and maybe come up with some other great ideas. But right now, here us today, of course, I am, of course, Jason DeCanio, as you know. If you didn't already know in the last 3 minutes, we've got some fantastic things going on. The legend of a great singer who passed at the age of 96, Tony Bennett, over the weekend. There's been so many tributes and things going on. We're going to take a look at this man's fantastic legacy for over 7 decades. My heart was just broken when I found out about the news, folks. It was one of those tough things to have to swallow, but he lived a great life. He's now doesn't have to suffer no more with Alzheimer's, as he is in a better place at a better time. But boy, his music was fantastic. We'll look at his great legacy later on in the program. And Lance Armstrong wins 7th race in 2005 as he finally retires after that last race in 2005. This marks the day that he had done it. And we'll take a look at his illustrious career. And the 11th anniversary of the passing of Sherman Hemsley, also known as George Jefferson. Yes, you know Sherman Hemsley, the man who made George Jefferson a household name. He also had his own series back in the mid-'80s called Amen from 86 to 91. And we'll look at Sherman Hemsley later on in the program. Plus, we also have News of the Weird. What day is today? And of course, this is an editorial, plus headline sports and, what day is today. All this and much more on this edition of DMS 3000 News Live. We're ready to start off with the headlines today for July 24th, 2023. Well, could the U.S. still see a recession? A handy primer about the confusing economy. A string of encouraging reports is raising hope about the economy, but worries of a possible recession have not gone away. And Netanyahu leaves hospital as Israel faces a key vote over divisive legal changes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was released from the hospital after a heart procedure and now faces a national crisis ahead of Parliament's votes on legislation to overhaul the judiciary. A diet composed of 80% ultra-processed foods led one British doctor to gain weight and feel unwell. Now he's trying to nail down the health effects of this type of diet, which many Americans eat. An ultra-processed diet made this doctor sick. Now he's studying why. Turning barely used office space into desperately needed urban housing seems like a win-win in the work-from-home era, but even in cities eager to do this, plenty of obstacles remain, and turning unused office space into housing could solve two problems, but it's tricky. The set of health policy ideas have been GOP favorites for decades, and it could mean cheaper health insurance, but would undermine protections for patients in the Affordable Care Act. House Republicans' Choice Act would roll back some Obamacare protections. The deputy commander of the UN command said Monday it had started conversations with North Korea over an American soldier who ran into the north last week across the Korea's heavily armed border. UN command says it's communicating with North Korea over a detained U.S. soldier. And the vessel that was traveling from Lanto village in southeast Sulawesi province to nearby Lajili village, when it capsized, the wooden boat was carrying 40 people, but was designed for just 20, as Indonesian boat capsizes, leaving more than a dozen dead and others missing. Garrett Marshall, retired television broadcast engineer from Madison, prevailed Saturday night at Sloppy Joe's Bar, a frequent hangout of Ernest Hemingway when he lived in Key West during the 1930s, as the bell tolls for Wisconsin man who wins the Ernest Hemingway look-alike contest. The United States' preeminent professional soccer league, Major League Soccer, has long lagged behind top European leagues. Yes, Messi Mania will bring in soccer's GOAT change, Major League Soccer's rep. And Brian Harman turned back every challenge in the British Open, from big names to bad weather, and took his place among major champions with a victory that was never seriously in doubt, as he wins the British Open in his first major championship. Danish rider Jonas Vingegaard wins the Tour de France for the second straight year, and with a huge lead built up over main rival Tadej Pogacar, Vingegaard knew the victory was effective. Knew the victory was effectively his again before the largely ceremonial final stage. And the DC United soccer team announced Friday that it had fired the club's athletic trainer for allegedly making a discriminatory hand gesture in a photo that appeared on social media. A Major League Soccer trainer was fired for flashing the OK hand sign in a photo. And finally, here's what happens to the body in extreme temperatures and how heat becomes deadly. Multiple organ failure, heart attack, and kidney failure are the primary ways people die in extreme heat. So read on to find out how to stay safe in the heat wave. And that is a look at today's headlines and for July 24th, 2023. All right, let's go on now to Major League Baseball. As you know, we have a lot of things to cover in Major League Baseball. Got some big news. We're going to put MLB.com on there. I'm going to do that easily. The website's easy to kind of navigate around. Okay. All right. Yes, I know. Okay. So let's look at the latest news. Roland McGriff enshrined in the Hall of Fame in a sunsplash ceremony. Let's see. On a brilliant summer Sunday under sunny skies, steady stars Fred McGriff and Scott Rowland formally entered baseball immortality. A consistent power source and a brilliant defender, respectively, they became the latest inductees to the National Baseball Hall of Fame, accepting their plaques in this idyllic village and taking their places among the greatest who have ever played the game. Both men took stock of the long roads that brought them to this stage, echoing themes of gratitude and family during their induction speeches. What a journey, what a dream, said McGriff, who was the first of the two to accept baseball's highest individual honor. And McGriff, on an illustrious career, fires can ignite the spark. 59-year-old McGriff cranked 493 home runs over his 19-year big league career, split among 6 teams. He played a key role in the 1995 World Series champion Braves and amassed 10 seasons with 30 or more home runs and 8 100 RBI campaigns. Rolen, age 48, won 8 Gold Gloves as one of the greatest defensive third basemen to play the game and starred in the 2006 World Series as the Cardinals won their first title in 24 years. He played in 5 postseasons, including 2 World Series, and was a 7-time All-Star during a 17-year career spent with 4 clubs. On Sunday, both men stood on the stage with many of the greatest players in baseball history. It's intimidating, Rolen said. It's very intimidating to be in a room with those guys and their wives and their families. They are the legends of the game. There's not going to be a quick turnaround here that I'm going to feel like I belong. There you go, folks. The 2 stars of the 90s and 2000s had the day to themselves, but they were not the only ones honored by the Hall on the weekend. In a separate ceremony on Saturday, 3 other baseball notables were recognized. Pat Hughes received the Ford C. Frick Award for broadcasting. John Lowe was honored with the BBWAA Career Excellence Award, and Carl Erskine received the Buck O'Neill Lifetime Achievement Award. The Hall also commemorated the commissioning of the USS Cooperstown on Sunday. The naval combat ship was named for the 70 Hall of Fame players who paused their baseball careers in order to serve in the United States military during combat. All right, let's look at some other news here. And this is a continuation of what each team should do in the deadline. I believe that Brandon had covered and picked up where we had left off last week. So if he did everything from the way it should be, we should already be in the NL West for the games and everything of that sort. So let's look at that right now. We did cover that. I hadn't looked at what he had done, but we're going to look at, we're going to wrap things up today with the NL West and finish that up right now. I'm going to slide down here and get everything going. Here we are at the NL West, and this is a continuation of what we had covered last week on Monday's program when we started with the AL East. All right, so right now the D-backs, they need to add some bullpen help. You know, with the trade deadline coming with an outstanding first half, the D-backs have put themselves in the postseason conversation. But they would be well served to bolster their bullpen and possibly their rotation as well. And while the bullpen has been much improved over the past 2 seasons, closing games has at times been a problem. A proven closer and another reliable reliever would be huge additions. With 3 young players possibly filling spots in the rotation, a veteran starter would also prove a boost. And the Dodgers, well, they can get pitching help. They need pitching help bad. The Dodgers have 3 rookie starters in the rotation right now. And if they want to make a deep run in October, that probably has to change before the deadline. Of course, it's not the easiest market to navigate it through, but adding a starter, maybe even 2, is a real need for the Dodgers. In the bullpen, Los Angeles would also benefit from a veteran presence now that Daniel Hudson would be out for the foreseeable future. And the Giants, well, they need a starting pitcher or 2, so they have to work on that. San Francisco currently does not have a starter on the injured list, but health is never a guarantee, as Logan Webb is the only member of the rotation who has not missed time with injury. The Giants have performed just fine without 5 healthy starters, but they risk overtaxing their relievers if they continue to rely on bullpen games as heavily as they did in the first half. A middle-of-the-rotation starter to follow Webb and Alex Cobb could go a long way down the stretch. And the Padres, well, they plan to buy and they have to be ready to sell. These Padres were built to win now, and even though they find themselves on the fringes of the playoff picture, they should still try to maximize their window. So long as they're within striking distance, it'd be prudent to bolster the roster with players who have multiple years of team control, perhaps a middle reliever and a corner outfielder, bench bat. You know, it shouldn't cripple the farm to acquire those pieces. But the Padres also need to be ready for a major sell-off. If they sputter and find themselves fully out of contention, it's time to pivot and recoup serious value on 2 elite rental pieces, Josh Hader and Blake Snell. And the Rockies, sell and make some room. Yes, Veteran relievers such as right-hander Pierce Johnson and left-handers Brad Hand and Brent Suter are usually in demand this time of year, and all are pitching well enough to help a contender. What's intriguing is first baseman C.J. Cron and outfielder Randall Gerchuk also are hitting for power, and Jerkson Profar is a switch hitter, a roster asset. Any deal for the Rockies needs to add prospects who can be developed and make room for players already in the majors or on the cusp. So there you have it, folks. That was a week-long look at what each team should do at the trade deadline, which is coming up very soon. I think it's August 1st, mind you. So check on that and get ready for an interesting trade deadline to see what's going to happen. Here are the baseball scores. As you know, these are from yesterday. The Tigers keep the Padres from winning again. Tigers got 3 runs against the Padres, 3-1, and they go to 45-54 on the year. The Nationals, they finally get over 40 wins. They beat the Giants 6-1, and the Giants are struggling as they are trying to contend with Arizona and LA for the top spot in the NL West. It was the Yankees 8, Royals 5. Royals just continue to struggle. The Yankees are holding their own, trying to get out of the cellar and put the Red Sox back on the bottom of the barrel. The Yankees are 53-47. Tough division in the AL East, as you know, because of the situation with the Rays and everything. The Reds, they win. They get back on the winning streak. They beat the Diamondbacks in the upset. They go 7-3, and they have a record of 55-46. So they're contending with the Brewers right now, and the D-backs, because of that loss, put the Dodgers probably back up on the division. We'll look at the division standings in just a little bit here. The Orioles upset the Rays. Oh, my goodness. And clinch a half a game now on the Rays for the top division. The Orioles are showing that they are in true fashion. They beat the Rays last night 5-3. It was the Phillies over the Guardians 8-5 as the Phillies are trying to catch the Braves. Now at 53-46. It was the Marlins 3, the Rockies 2. The Twins beat the White Sox 5-4. The Braves upset the Brewers 4-2 to try to get back to 30 games over 500, which they did. That's 64-34. They keep their winning ways. The Cubs 7, the Cardinals 2. Both teams struggling mightily, but the Cubs prevail with the better record. It was the Rangers over the Dodgers 8-4 as Texas is showing itself right now in the AL West by putting more pressure on Houston. But Houston did have to win that game against the Athletics. They beat the Athletics 3-2 to continually be only 3 games back now of the Texas Rangers. It was the Angels over the Pirates 7-5, Blue Jays over the Mariners 4-3, and in a stunning upset, which there was no contest, Boston continues to try to keep itself out of the cellar, beats the Mets, takes 2 out of 3, and puts the Mets 7 games under 500 with a score of 6-1. All right, here are the standings as we look at this week going into right now, Baltimore, Tampa Bay. Oh, my goodness. You would have never thought you ever saw this before. And for all those people out there who are doing baseball YouTube channels today, get yourself on the cusp because Baltimore Orioles, they are for real. 61-38. They lead the AL East by 2 games over Tampa Bay. Count them, 2 games, folks. 61-42 is the Tampa Bay Rays. Toronto, 55-45, 6.5. Back. Boston and the Yankees are 53-47, but Boston has the upper hand, not being in the cellar. They're both 8.5 back and 2 in the back in the wild card. So that's really close right now. Boston and the Yankees, you don't know which way they're going to go. See what happens as the Yankees will play the Mets in a 2-game series starting tomorrow. Minnesota, 53-48, leads the AL Central. Cleveland, 49-50, 3 games back. Detroit, 45-54, 7 games back. Chicago White Sox, 41-60, 12 back. And Kansas City, 28-73, 25 back. Texas leading over the Houston Astros right now at 59-41. Houston is 3 back at 56-44. The LA Angels 51-49, 8 back. Seattle 50-49, 8.5 back. And Oakland contesting with Kansas City by 1 game in the loss column, 28-74, 32 games back. In the NL East, it is Atlanta right now taking an 11.5 game lead over Philly. Atlanta has a 64-34 record, 30 games over 500, putting more and more pressure on the division. Philly, 11.5 back, 53-46. Miami, 54-47, 11.5 back. Mets, forget about it, 46-53, 18.5 back, only 7.5 in the wild card. They might still have a chance. You Mets fans out there, we're not giving up. But I'll tell you right now, if we don't make some runs here and get over 500 for a chance, we're not going to have any chance in October to look for it. So August and September, we must have a fantastic next 2 months. Otherwise, you can wrap it up and say we'll look at it next year. Washington 41-58, 23.5 back, 12.5 back in the wild card. Milwaukee 55-45. They hold the top spot, as Cincinnati is a half game back at 55-46. Chicago Cubs, 48-51, 6.5 back. St. Louis, 44-56, 11 back. Pittsburgh, 43-56, 11.5 back. The Dodgers, they are on the top of the NL West, 57-41. Arizona is 4 games back at 54-46. San Fran tied with Arizona, 54-46, 4 games back. The Padres, 48-52, 10 back. And the Rockies round out the NL West division at 39-60, 18.5 back. They still have yet to win 40 games. And that is a look at the Major League standings and scores for this day in baseball. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll look at the news of the weird. That's coming up next, and also, too, the legend of a great singer who passed at the age of 96, Tony Bennett. We'll look at all of that great stuff when we come back right after this.
Every day I wake up, pour myself a cup of that rich Folgers aroma. The best part of waking up, it's the do-up in all I do. The mountain gonna aroma, always coming through. Oh, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Now I'm right in harmony with that do-up ditty. Whoa, one more cup and it's a who-up shabop for me. Oh, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
There's a new winner in mustards. In a nationwide taste test, new Hellmann's Dijonnaise Creamy Mustard Blend beat the leading mustard by 2-1.
You know, when I opened up that lunchbox and I saw that my sweetheart had made that ham sandwich with delicious new Hellmann's Dijonnaise, well, I knew I was in love.
Oh, nothing beats new Hellmann's Dijonnaise.
My brother says it's said to be square, and Elio's pizza is square, really. And you break it up, and you stick it in the toaster thing, and tons of cheese goes blub, blub, blub. And the best part about Elio's is my brother has to make it for me, which is very convenient.
Elio's Pizza from McCain. Easier, cheesier, crispier.
And square.
Instant waxed shine as you dust. You've been hearing things like that for years. But is waxing all that instant when you only need to dust? Watch.
With spray wax, you have all this rubbing.
But there's no wax in Endust. It just coats your cloth with tiny beads that trap dust.
You just wipe, and it brings back the shine. Use wax when you have to, sure. But every time you dust, use Endust. It gets rid of dust in half the time of waxing.
I like the way you shine. Baby, it's understood. You're a good time all the time. You make me feel so good. I like the way you speak to take me through a thirsty day. You're a welcome sight to see. You're a Washington apple. Bite into the best. A little taste of heaven to me. Washington apples.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, just said your breath's the worst of all.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
Hey, a kiss for charity is really fine, but breath like yours isn't worth a dime.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
Not even mouthwash can freshen your breath more effectively than when you're chewing Dentine.
That baby's cute as a bunny rabbit, but he smelled your breath and let you have it.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
All right, welcome back to DMS 3000 News Live. I'm Jason Iganio. It is episode 28. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday morning on this July 24th, 2023. We're going to continue on where we left off, and we're going to look at news of the weird. Yes, every Monday we do this because it comes out every Friday. So let's tap in to the editors at Andrews McMeel Syndication for the week of July 21st, 2023. The title story is The Aristocrats. Yeah, wow, things went literally and physically south on July 11th at a press dinner on New York's Upper East Side in support of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s presidential campaign. According to page 6, as Kennedy answered questions, someone posed one about climate change, but before Kennedy could answer, Doug Deckard, the event host, screamed, "The climate hoax," which brought a scold from an art critic, Anthony Hayden Guest, who called him a miserable blob. The two continued their exchange, with Kennedy calmly looking on until Deckard loudly released a prolonged fart while yelling, helpfully, "I'm farting." After attempts to change the subject and more verbal antics, the evening wound down. The next day, Deckard told page 6, "I apologize for using my flatulence as a medium of public commentary in your presence. How do I get on this guest list?" Notre Dame quarterback Sam Hartman, who sat out some of last season with Wake Forest University, underwent surgery in August of 2022 to remove blood clots and the rib closest to his collarbone. 247sports.com reports. What to do with that extra rib? Hartman's mom, a nurse, is making a necklace for him with the bone. Oh, it's actually clean. It is well on its way to becoming a necklace, he said. I asked her to try and make it like a puka shell type deal with the rib-like shark's tooth at the end. Hartman said the jewelry might appear in a couple of pregame warm-ups. It won't be worn a lot. A 51-year-old Australian sailor, Tim Shattuck of Sydney, and his dog Bella became stranded in the Pacific Ocean after they set out from Mexico for French Polynesia, a 3,700-mile trip in April. The boat became damaged in storms, the BBC reported, and Shattuck drifted until mid-July when a helicopter spotted him. A tuna trawler picked up the pair, who were in surprisingly good health. Shattuck said they ate raw fish and collected rainwater, and he sheltered from the sun beneath the boat's canopy. I've been through a very difficult ordeal at sea, he said. I'm just needing rest and good food. In Glastonbury, Connecticut, 11 boats took off from the Seaboard Marina on July 12th. Make that with the Marina. WTNH-TV reported that a 200-foot section of dock with 11 boats attached broke off and started floating down the Connecticut River, later passing through Cromwell, Portland, Middletown, and Haddam. One part of the errant dock was still floating downstream the next day. Officials said it was likely that flooding in Vermont had caused the high waters that set the structure free. Teddy Charton of Middletown said he got a call from I got a call that my boat was floating down the river and ended up all the way down in Chester. Eventually, all but one of the boats was recovered. Multiple wrecks tied up northbound I-95 in Bridgeport, Connecticut on July 17th, all attributed to one cause. A tractor trailer was leaking human waste onto the roadway, which caused the motorcyclist to lose control and crash. The Associated Press was reporting that day. Several vehicles crashed into each other or concrete barriers on the slippery roads. And another truck skidded into a state police cruiser, which then rammed into another cruiser. No one was seriously hurt in the pileup. The driver was charged with reckless endangerment and reckless driving, as officers believed he knew of the gross leak but kept driving. Oh, yeah. To demonstrate the deadly heat inside a closed car, the staff of the National Weather Service in Midland, Texas, baked a batch of chocolate chip cookies on a car's dashboard on July 18th, United Press International reported. And while it was 105 degrees outside, the dashboard registered 190 degrees, high enough to bake the cookies in about 4.5 hours. Even though ours weren't golden brown, we can confirm that they are done and delicious, NWS employees wrote on Facebook. Oh, and when a backyard bunny breeder bundled their belongings and said bye-bye to Janeda Isles, a community in Wilton Manors, Florida, they left behind between 60 and 100 lionhead rabbits who have now infiltrated the neighborhood and are driving residents bonkers. Click Orlando reported that the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission has declined to intercede. So resident Alicia Griggs is heading up an effort to raise the money needed to capture, neuter, vaccinate, and rehome the rabbits to the tune of $20,000 to $40,000. People don't realize they're exotic pets, and they're complicated, Griggs said. They have to eat a special diet. You can't just throw any table scraps at them. Residents complain that the bunnies dig holes, chew wiring, and leave droppings on sidewalks and driveways. Others think the rabbits are cute, but experts say their heavy coats and finicky digestive systems aren't conducive to living wild in Florida. They are not equipped to thrive on their own. Okay, folks, welcome back. Sorry about that. Computer decided to crash right in the middle of that story, so we're going to pick up where we left off. Sorry about the delay. Let's continue on where we left off, okay? And we were looking at... I had the ad blockers on for a reason because of that. You would think that the ad blockers... Okay, now let's go back and finish up where we left off. Okay, so we were finishing up with the rabbits. As Eric Stewart said, Executive Director of American Breed Association, they're not equipped to thrive on their own. Okay, so remind yourself of that when you decide to see a bunny rabbit and realize that they're cute, but they're not to be pretty much dealt with unless you have the right tools and they're fully vaccinated and all that stuff. So you might want to kind of exercise caution on the rabbits, okay? All right, getting back to it. 40-year-old Michael Raduga. He's the founder of the Phase Research Center in Russia, but critically not a doctor or neurosurgeon. He's not or a neurosurgeon. Nearly lost his life in June when he tried to implant a chip in his own brain on his own in his living room in Kazakhstan. The Daily Mail reported that Raduga lost more than a liter of blood in his quest to control his dreams. He said he practiced on 5 sheep's brains and watched hours of neurosurgery on YouTube before starting on his own head. During the first 30 minutes, I was ready to give up many times because I was afraid I could just lose consciousness, Raduga said. I finished the surgery, I took a shower, and I worked for 10 hours straight. People didn't know, but neurosurgeon Alex Green of the University of Oxford wasn't having it. This is an extremely dangerous thing to do, he said. We are probably decades away from being able to synthesize new experiences. I don't know about that. If they can control the amount of blood flow, then we'll be all right. Oddity Central reported on July 21st of a young woman named Zhao in Hizhou City, China. Why is it we got to have these Chinese stories? I don't know. She suffered a ruptured cardum or eardrum following a moment of passion with her boyfriend. When she went to the emergency room because of loss of hearing, a doctor saw blood on her eardrum and asked if she had any physical trauma to her ear. Nope, she said, but when he kissed my ear, he sucked it hard and made a pop sound. After that, I couldn't hear in my left ear. The hospital's deputy director of otolaryngology, head and neck surgery, Fu Jia, said eardrums usually heal on their own. Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, and finally, the frog lady, Helen Claypool of Kirksville, Missouri, passed away in December of 2022. KTVO TV reported. So the time has come to liquidate her collection of frogs. Claypool had more than 15,000 frogs, so many that she and her late husband, Don, nicknamed Toad, had to build an addition on their house. She started collecting at age 6 and kept 46 logbooks, documenting each one, complete with photos. The Claypools even opened their home to the public as Helen's House of Frogs Museum. Now the whole frog fantasy is on the auction block. Send your weird news items with subject line weird news to weirdnewstips@amuniversal.com. And we thank, of course, the editors at Andrews McNeil Syndication for News of the Weird. Yep. All right, folks. When we come back, we're going to take a break. And we'll look at the legend of a great singer who passed at the age of 96. Tony Bennett is up next, folks. We'll be right back right after this.
Its name of origin is Theobroma, food of the gods, but we know it as chocolate. This may be the first time you've seen natural chocolate, and this may be the first time you've really tasted it. Breyers all-natural ice cream. Nothing artificial. Just fresh milk, real cream, pure sugar. so that true chocolate taste really comes through. Breyer's ice cream. It's like tasting chocolate for the first time.
My health club always had Pert Plus in the locker room. It cleans, conditions. It's great. Then one day they switched. This one said it had conditioner in it, but my hair told a different story.
Some 2-in-1s don't lather as well or leave hair feeling as clean. Others don't fully condition. But Pert Plus's microbead conditioner leaves hair clean and completely conditioned.
So now when I go to my club, my Pert Plus goes with me.
Pert Plus. There's no 2-in-1 like this one.
What's this? Married 6 months and already your wife's using spaghetti sauce for jaw?
It's okay, Pop. This is Prego.
Prego. Listen to me. The ingredients of a successful marriage. Garlic.
It's in there.
Little bits of real herbs and onions for that homemade taste.
Pop, look. It's in there.
And you need...
Whoa, huh?
It's in there.
100% natural Prego spaghetti sauce. Homemade taste. It's in there.
Enjoy extra sugar-free gum.
You get extra flavor, extra fun, in extra sugar-free gum.
Extra, the only leading sugar-free gum with NutraSweet, gives you extra refreshing flavor that lasts an extra long time.
Extra flavor for that extra long play. Extra flavor for that extra long day. When you chew it extra, the extra fresh flavor lasts an extra long time.
Extra lasts extra long.
Birch, beech, maple, hickory. America's great hardwood trees. They help make smoked sausage made on the Hillshire Farm, America's great tasting smoked sausage. Hillshire Farm uses its own special blend of hardwood chips from these great trees to slowly, gently, delicately smoke its sausage right on the farm. They do it the old-fashioned way to give you all the flavor you want in a smoked sausage. That's how Hillshire Farm makes America's great tasting smoked sausage in Polska kielbasa.
Welcome back to DMS News 3000 Live. I'm Jason DeCanio. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday morning here. Boy, that was a quick look at commercials from the 80s and some from the 90s as well. All right, well, it's 8:44 here at the WJDC studios via the DMS 3000 David 3000 network. So today we're looking at the legend of a great singer who passed at the age of 96, Tony Bennett. You know, before we read any articles or anything, Christmas is not going to be the same without Tony Bennett. One of the things that I remember so much about Tony Bennett is his wonderful voice when it comes to fantastic Christmas songs like Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, Silent Night, and just a whole bunch of songs. His voice really gives an inspiration to a Christmas season, and we will never forget the wonderful memories we have had with our families as we play some fantastic Tony Bennett songs over the course of 70 years. I know my grandmother started the whole tradition, and I, as a kid growing up, listened to those older artists and was very much taken to a whole different level of respect for older singers with club jazz music or big band music of the 40s and 50s. So as you can tell, you know, not many people my age, of the age of 45, respect that music. And if you happen to, great, because you have great parents who taught you that the older singers are responsible for the generations that are coming ahead of them. So at right this moment, at the age of 96, and Tony Bennett's passing, we leave a man who basically leaves a legacy of more than 80 years of great music and fun times. So, you know, yep. So let's look at the New York Times article, and I'm going to put, continue. I'm not signing in. Reload. Okay. Yeah, Tony Bennett, jazzy crooner of the American Songbook, is dead at 96. From his initial success at the Paramount in Times Square through his generation-spanning duets, his career was remarkable for both its longevity and its consistency. Tony Bennett, and this is by Bruce Weber. The article was out this past Friday, 2023, and we'll read this article. Tony Bennett, a singer whose melodic clarity, jazz-influenced phrasing, audience-embracing persona, and warm, deceptively simple interpretations of musical standards helped spread the American Songbook around the world and won him generations of fans, died on Friday at his home of many decades in Manhattan. He was 96. His publicist, Sylvia Weiner, announced his death. Mr. Bennett learned that he had Alzheimer's disease in 2016. His wife, Susan Benedetto, told AARP, the magazine, in February of 2021. But he continued to perform and record despite his illness. His last public performance was in August 2 years ago when he appeared with Lady Gaga at Radio City Music Hall in a show titled One Last Time. Mr. Bennett's career of more than 70 years was remarkable not only for his longevity, but also for its consistency. In hundreds of concerts and club dates and more than 150 recordings, he devoted himself to preserving the classic American popular song as written by Cole Porter, the Gershwins, Duke Ellington, Rodgers and Hammerstein, and others. And from his initial success as a jazzy crooner who wowed audiences at the Paramount in Times Square in the early 1950s, through his late-in-life duets with younger singers gleaned from a range of genres and generations, most notably Lady Gaga, with whom he recorded albums in 2014 and 2021 and toured in 2015. He was an active promoter of both songwriting and entertaining as timeless, noble pursuits. Mr. Bennett stubbornly resisted record producers who urged gimmick songs on him, or in the 60s and early 70s, who were sure that rock and roll had relegated the music he preferred to a dusty bin perused only by a dwindling population of the elderly and nostalgic. Instead, he followed in the musical path of the greatest American pop singers of the 20th century, Louis Armstrong, Bing Crosby, Judy Garland, Billie Holiday, Frank Sinatra, and carried the torch for them into the 21st century. He reached the height of stardom in 1962 with a celebrated concert at Carnegie Hall and the release of his signature song, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. And though he saw his popularity wane with the onset of rock, and his career went through a trough in the 1970s when professional difficulties were exacerbated by a failing marriage and drug problems, he was, in the end, more than vindicated in his musical judgment. I want to sing the great songs that I felt really mattered to people, he said in The Good Life in 1998, an autobiography written with Will Fredwald. It's hard to overstate Mr. Bennett's lasting appeal. He was still singing San Francisco, which led many people to think he was a native of that city, though he was actually a through and through New Yorker more than half a century later. He sang on Ed Sullivan's show and David Letterman's. He sang with Rosemary Clooney when she was in her 20s and Celine Dion when she was in her 20s. He made his film debut in 1966 in a critically reviled Hollywood story, The Oscar, playing a man betrayed by an old friend. And though he did not pursue an acting career, decades later he was playing himself in movies like the Robert De Niro, Billy Crystal gangster comedy Analyze This, and the Jim Carrey vehicle, Bruce Almighty. He was 64 when he appeared as a cartoon version of himself on The Simpsons. He was 82 when he appeared on the HBO series Entourage, performing one of his trademark songs, The Good Life. A lifelong Liberal Democrat, Mr. Bennett participated in the Selma to Montgomery Civil Rights March in 1965, and along with Harry Belafonte, Sammy Davis Jr., and others, performed at the Stars for Freedom rally on the city of St. Jude campus on the outskirts of Montgomery on March 24th, the night before the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the address that came to be known as the How Long, Not Long speech. At the conclusion of the march, Viola Luiso, a volunteer from Michigan, drove Mr. Bennett to the airport. She was murdered later that day by members of the Ku Klux Klan. Mr. Bennett also performed for Nelson Mandela, then the president of South Africa, during his state visit to England in 1996. He sang at the White House for John F. Kennedy and Bill Clinton, and at Buckingham Palace at Queen Elizabeth II's 50th anniversary jubilee. He won his first 2 Grammy Awards for San Francisco in '63 and his last for the album Love for Sale with Lady Gaga last year. Altogether, there were 20 of them, including in 2001, a Lifetime Achievement Award. By some estates, he sold more than 60 million records. The talent that spawned this success and popularity was not so easy to define. Neither a fluid singer nor an especially powerful one, he did not have the mellifluous timbre of Crosby or the raucous swing of Sinatra. If Armstrong's tone was distinctively gravelly, Mr. Bennett's wasn't quite. Sandy was more like it. Almost no one denied that his voice was appealing, but critics strove mightily to describe it and then to justify its appeal. The voice that is the basic tool of Mr. Bennett's trade is small, thin, and somewhat hoarse. John S. Wilson wrote in the New York Times in 1962, but he uses it shrewdly and with a skillful lack of pretension. In a 1974 profile, Whitney Ballet, the longtime jazz critic for The New Yorker, called Mr. Bennett an elusive singer. He can be a belter who reaches rocking fortissimos, Mr. Ballet wrote. He drives a ballad as intensely and intimately as Sinatra. He can be a lilting, glancing jazz singer. He can be a low-key, searching supper club performer. But he added, Bennett's voice binds all his vocal selves together. Most simply, perhaps, the composer and critic Alec Wilder said about Mr. Bennett's voice, there is a quality about it that lets you in. Indeed, what many listeners, including the critics, discovered about Mr. Bennett and what they responded to was something intangible. The care with which he treated both the song and the audience. He had a storyteller's grace with a lyric, a jazzman's sureness with a melody, and in his finest performances, he delivered them with a party giver's welcome, a palpable and infectious affability. In his presentation, the songs he loved and sang, Just in Time, The Best Is Yet to Come, Rags to Riches, and I Want to Be Around, to name a handful of his emblematic hits, became engaging, life-embracing parables. Frank Sinatra, whom Mr. Bennett counted as a mentor and friend, once put it another way. For my money, Tony Bennett is the best singer in the business, he told Life magazine in 1965. He excites me when I watch him. He moves me. He's the singer who gets across what the composer has in mind and probably a little more. Mr. Bennett passed through life with as unscathed a public image as it is possible for a celebrity to have. Finding even mild criticism of him in reviews and interviews is no mean feat. And even his outspoken liberalism generally failed to attract vitriol from the right. An exception was his call after the drug-related deaths of Michael Jackson, Amy Winehouse, and Whitney Houston for the legalization of drugs, a view loudly denounced by William J. Bennett, the former drug czar, among others. With the possible exception of his former wives, everyone, it seemed, loved Tony Bennett. Skeptical journalists would occasionally try to pierce what they perceived as his perfect veneer but they generally discovered that there wasn't much to pierce. Bennett is outrageous, Simon Hattenstone, a reporter for The Guardian, who wrote back in 2002. He mythologizes himself, name drops every time he opens his mouth, directs you to his altruism, is self-congratulatory to the point of indecency. He should be intolerable, but he's one of the sweetest, most humble men I've ever met. And he was a son of Queens. He was born on August 3rd, 1926, in the Long Island City neighborhood of Queens and grew up in that borough in working-class Astoria. And his father, Giovanni, had migrated from Calabria in southern Italy at age 11. His mother, Anna Benedetto, was born in New York in 1899, having made the sea journey from Italy in the womb. Their marriage was arranged, and Giovanni and Anna were cousins. Their mothers were sisters. And that is a look at Tony Bennett, folks. Great, great story. And the legend will continue to live on. And if you'd like to see another legacy of Tony Bennett, check out what I did back on the Legacy of New York on my YouTube page, as we did a tribute to Tony Bennett over that first season. And it's on the David 3000 Network, but you can also check it out on my YouTube page as well. 8:57 is the WJDC studio time. When we come back, we're going to look at Lance Armstrong, the man who wins his 7th race in 2005, fully retires from cycling. And then later on in the program, the 11th anniversary of the passing of Sherman Hemsley, also known as George Jefferson. We'll be right back right after this.
At the river mouth, the bears catch only the tastiest, most tender salmon, which is exactly what we at John West want. John West endured the worst to bring you the best.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell like. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamonds. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
Ship my pants? Right here? Ship my pants, you're kidding. You can ship your pants right here. You hear that? I can ship my pants for free.
Wow, I just may ship my pants.
Yeah, ship your pants. Billy, you can ship your pants too.
I can't wait to ship my pants, Dad.
I just shipped my pants, and it's very convenient.
Very convenient.
I just shipped my drawers. I just shipped my nightie.
I just shipped my bed. If you can't find what you're looking for in store, we'll find it at Kmart.com right now and ship it to you for free.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the information purification directives. We have created for the first time in all history a garden of pure ideology where each worker may bloom secure from the pests of a contradictory thoughts. Our unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Mr. Cow.
Yes?
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I don't know. I always end up biting. Ask Mr. Fox, for he's much cleverer than I.
Mr. Fox, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Why don't you ask Mr. Turtle, for he's been around a lot longer than I. Me, I bite.
Mr. Turtle, How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I never made it without biting. Ask Mr. Owl, for he is the wisest of us all.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 3.
If there's anything I can't stand, it's a smart owl.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
Mr. Green? Mr. Green?
Yeah.
You need any help?
Mm-mm.
I just want you to know, I think you're the best ever.
Yeah, sure.
Want my Coke? It's okay, you can have it.
No.
Really, you can have it.
Okay.
A Coke and a smile makes me feel good. Makes me feel nice.
Around.
That's the way it should be. I like to see
Hey, kid.
the whole world is smiling with me. Coca-Cola as life. Have a Coke and
Thanks, Mean Joe.
smile.
So you think Santa will like these red and green M&Ms?
I don't know. I never met the guy. He does exist!
They do exist. Santa?
Lance Armstrong, who won his 7th race back in 2005, had a very illustrious career in cycling. And on this day today, he had accomplished what most cyclists have yet to get to that point and are starting to work onto that point. We're going to look at Lance Armstrong right now and give you a little background about Lance Armstrong. He is an American former professional road racing cyclist, and he achieved international fame for winning the Tour de France a record 7 consecutive times from 1999 to 2005, but was stripped of his titles after an investigation found he used performance-enhancing drugs over his career. At age 16, Armstrong began competing as a triathlete and was a national sprint course triathlon champion from 89 and 90. And then in 1992, he began his career as a professional cyclist with the Motorola team. He had success between 93 and 96 with the World Championship in 93, the Classica de San Sebastian in 95, the Tour de Pont in 95 and 98, and a handful of stage victories in Europe, including Stage 8 of the 1993 Tour de France, Stage 18 of the 1995 Tour de France. In 96, he was diagnosed with a potentially fatal metastatic testicular cancer, and after his recovery, he founded the Lance Armstrong Foundation, now the Livestrong Foundation, to assist other cancer survivors. Returning to cycling in 1998, Armstrong was a member of the U.S. Postal Discovery Team between 98 and 2005 when he won 7 Tour de France titles. Armstrong retired from racing at the end of 2005, but returned to competitive cycling with the Astana team in January of 2009, finishing 3rd in the 2009 Tour de France later that year. Between 2010 and 2011, he raced with Team Radio Shack and retired for a second time in 2011. He's become the subject of doping allegations after he won the 1999 Tour de France. For years, he denied involvement in doping. Then in 2012, a United States anti-doping agency investigation concluded that Armstrong had used performance-enhancing drugs over the course of his career and named him as the ringleader of the most sophisticated, professionalized, and successful doping program the sport has ever seen. And while maintaining his innocence, Armstrong chose not to contest the charges, citing the potential toil on his family. He received a lifetime ban from all sports that followed the World Anti-Doping Code, ending his competitive cycling career. The International Cycling Union upheld USDA's decision and decided that his stripped wins would not be allocated to other riders. In January of 2013, Armstrong publicly admitted his involvement in doping. In 2018 of April, he settled a civil lawsuit with the United States Department of Justice and agreed to pay $5 million to the U.S. government after whistleblower proceedings were commenced by Floyd Landis, a former team member. So going all the way back to that final win in 2005, he was beaten by the American Dave Zabriskie in the stage 1 time trial by 2 seconds, despite having passed Ulrich on the road. His Discovery Channel team won the team time trial, while Armstrong won the final individual time trial. In the mountain stages, Armstrong's lead was attacked multiple times, mostly by Ivan Basso, but also by T-Mobile leaders Jan Ulrich, Andreas Kloden, and Alexander Vinokurova, and former teammate Levi Leppenheimer. But still, the American champion handled them well, maintained his lead, and on some occasions increased it. To complete his record-breaking feat, he crossed the line on the champs Ulysses on July 24th to win his 7th consecutive tour, finishing 4 minutes, 40 seconds ahead of Basso, with Ulrich in third. Another record achieved that year was that Armstrong completed the tour at the highest pace in the race's history. His average speed over the whole tour was 41.7 kilometers at 26 miles per hour. Then in 2005, he announced to the world that he would retire after the Tour de France that year, citing his desire to spend more time with his family and his foundation. During his retirement, he diverted his attention away from the happenings in professional cycling. However, whilst at a conference in 2008, he saw Carlos Sastres win on Alpe d'Huez and felt a pang. That would cause him to come back in 4 years later and try in 2009, where he finished third. And, well, you know, you got to look at it this way. How long can you possibly keep up allegations against yourself before the truth really sets out there, friends? He held on to it for almost 13 years before he had to pay out $5 million to the U.S. Department of Justice in 2018. That, my friends, is holding out long enough. And it just goes to show you that no matter how great of an athlete you are and how many wins, how much excitement you bring to the sport, and how much hard work and determination you do, don't ever mix drugs in with your career. It's not healthy. It surely is devastating, and it makes you look like a fool. And as great as Lance Armstrong will ever be, you know, he will go down as the guy who pretty much destroyed cycling, even though he had won all those races. Because now people look back and say, why did this guy have to do this? Why did this guy have to continually use performance enhancing drugs to make him a better athlete? If he trained so hard and he practiced and did everything that he did legally and without those drugs, I think the man would have been able to continue racing well into last decade. I think he would have been able to, but because of that, the drugs probably worn him down a lot, and he used the excuses to get him by. But still, friends, you know, Lance Armstrong is a man who was determined to try to get as many wins as he possibly could. I wish he would have done it naturally. There's so much stuff out there that you could use that's legal and not going to cause damage to your body. Now, you know, he's still fighting that cancer and he has his foundation, but it gets to the point where it's like, really? You know, I wonder if his family ever thinks any less of him. Probably not, because it takes a lot of guts to come out and spew the beans, especially after a whistleblower basically blew all of that information out the door and literally exposed him for it. So the controversy of everything is that, yeah, he may have won the 7th race on this date in 2005, but Mr. Armstrong, what you did, how you did it, is not by any means respectful to the cycling community as well as to the sports world. And as much as you might like Lance Armstrong, or if you hate his guts based on what was read or what you've seen of him over the course of the times that you watched him in his races, draw your own conclusions, folks. We're here to just cover the fact that he won the 7th race in 2005. On this day, he retired, tried to come back 4 years later, and realized he couldn't do it. He finished 3rd in that 2009 race, came back 2 years later to try it again, retired, and officially sat down, and look what happened. His past came back to haunt him, unfortunately. But the man's still rolling in money, and how he spends it is none of anybody's business. But at the same time, if the press wants to continually expose this guy for all the things he did over the course of the decade and of the last 20 years, well, we're in for a long haul, and we'll never hear the end of it, possibly. We will hear the end of it right now as we're going to go to break. And when we come back in the next segment, the 11th anniversary of the passing of Sherman Hemsley, also known as George Jefferson. We'll be right back right after this.
Every day I wake up, pour myself a cup of that rich Folgers aroma. The best part of waking up, it's the do-up in all I do. The Mountain Gold aroma, always coming through. Oh, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Now I'm right in harmony with that do-up ditty. Whoa, one more cup and it's a who-up shabop for me. Oh, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
There's a new winner in mustards. In a nationwide taste test, new Hellmann's Dijonnaise Creamy Mustard Blend beat the leading mustard by 2-1.
You know, when I opened up that lunchbox and I saw that my sweetheart had made that ham sandwich with delicious new Hellmann's Dijonnaise, well, I knew I was in love.
Oh, nothing beats new Hellmann's Dijonnaise.
My brother says it's said to be square, and Elio's pizza's square, really. And you break it up, and you stick it in the toaster thing, and tons of cheese goes blub, blub, blub. And the best part about Elio's is my brother has to make it for me, which is very convenient.
Elio's Pizza from McCain. Easier, cheesier, crispier.
And square.
Instant waxed shine as you dust. You've been hearing things like that for years. But is waxing all that instant when you only need to dust? Watch.
With spray wax, you have all this rubbing.
But there's no wax in Endust. It just coats your cloth with tiny beads that trap dust.
You just wipe, and it brings back the shine. Use wax when you have to, sure. But every time you dust, use Endust. It gets rid of dust in half the time of waxing.
I like the way you shine. Baby, it's understood. You're a good time all the time. You make me feel so good. I like the way you sweet to take me through a thirsty day. You're a welcome sight to see. You're a Washington apple.
Bite into the best.
A little taste of heaven to me.
Washington apples.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, just said your breath's the worst of all.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
Hey, a kiss for charity is really fine, but breath like yours isn't worth a dime.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
Not even mouthwash can freshen your breath more effectively than when you're chewing Dentine.
That baby's cute as a bunny rabbit, but he smelled your breath and let you have it.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
All right, welcome back to DMS 3000 News Live. Episode 28 is upon you. I'm Jason Icanio, and it is July 24th, 2023 on this Monday. Hope you are having a fantastic first day of the brand new week as we are closing out soon. What will be next week, August will be here. Oh boy. Wow. Lots of going on here and in this next week and getting ourselves ready in August. And I'll talk about that in my editorial towards the end of the program. All right. Up next, we're going to be looking at the 11th anniversary of the passing of Sherman Hemsley. You all know him, George Jefferson from the Jeffersons. Sherman also had a part on his own program called Amen, but he had a lot of other things going for him in his time. He was an American actor known for his roles as George Jefferson on the CBS television series All in the Family and the Jeffersons, Deacon Ernest Fry on the NBC series Amen, and B.P. Ridgefield on the ABC series Dinosaurs. Hemsley also played Judge Carl Robertson on the NBC series The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and for his work on the Jeffersons, he was nominated for a Golden Globe Award and an Emmy. Hemsley also won the NAACP Image Award for Best Performance by an Actor in a Comedy Series or Special, The Jeffersons, in 1982. He was born and raised in South Philadelphia by his mother, who worked in a lamp factory. Hemsley did not meet his father until he was 14, and he graduated from Barat Middle School. And for high school, he attended Central High School for 9th grade and Bach Technical High School for 10th. Hemsley dropped out of school after the 10th grade and joined the United States Air Force, where he served for 4 years. On leaving the Air Force, he returned to Philadelphia, where he worked for the United States Postal Service during the day while attending the Academy of Dramatic Arts at night. He then moved to New York, continuing to work for the post office during the day while working as an actor at night. He starred as Gitlow in the early 1970s Broadway musical Pearlie. He performed with local groups in Philadelphia before moving to New York to study with Lloyd Richards at the Negro Ensemble Company. Shortly after, he joined Vinette Carroll's Urban Arts Company, appearing in these productions, But Never Jam Today, The Lottery, Old Judge Moss is Dead, Moon on a Rainbow Shawl, Step Lively Boys, Croesus, and The Witch. Hemsley made his Broadway debut in Pearlie and toured with the show for a year. In the summer of 1972, Hemsley joined the Vinette Carroll musical Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope Ensemble in Toronto, followed a month later in the American Conservatory Theater production at the Jerry Theater, and in this production, Hemsley performed the solos Looking Over From Your Side in Act 1 and Sermon in Act 2. And while Hemsley was on Broadway with Pearlie, Norman Lear called him in 1971 to play the recurring role of George Jefferson in his new sitcom All in the Family. Hemsley was reluctant to leave his theater role, at which Lear told him he would hold the role open for him. Another actor, Mel Stewart, played his brother for 2 episodes during this time. Hemsley joined the cast 2 years later. The characters of Hemsley and co-star Isabel Sanford were occasional supporting roles in All in the Family, then were given their own spin-off, The Jeffersons, in 1975. The Jeffersons proved to be one of Lear's most successful series, enjoying a run of 11 seasons through 1985. Hemsley continued to work steadily after the show's cancellation, largely typecast in George Jefferson-like roles. He teamed with the sitcom's original cast members when the Jeffersons moved to Broadway for a brief run. Hemsley later joined the cast of ABC's Amen in 1986 as Deacon Ernest Fry, a church deacon. The sitcom enjoyed a run of 5 seasons, ending in 91. Hemsley then was a voice actor in the ABC live-action puppet series Dinosaurs, where he played Bradley P. Ridgefield, the boss of the main character, Earl. The series ran 4 seasons, ending in 94. And then in 1995, Hemsley made 4 appearances in the sitcom Sister Sister as Tia and Tamara Mowry's grandfather. In 96, he had the lead role in the TV comedy series Good Behavior, which lasted for 1 season. He then cut back on his acting career, although Isabel Sanford and he occasionally appeared together in the mid to late 90s and in the early 2000s, reprising their popular roles and guest appearances on such television series as The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, in commercials for The Gap, Old Navy, and Denny's, and at dry cleaning conventions. He also starred with Sanford in a touring company of the Real Live Jeffersons stage show in the 90s. Sanford and he made cameo appearances in the film Sprung, and they continued to work together on occasion until Sanford's health declined prior to her death in 2004. In 2001, Helmsley appeared as a contestant on the Celebrity Classic TV edition special of ABC's hit primetime quiz show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and won $125,000 for his charity. Helmsley also made a voice appearance as himself in the Seth MacFarlane animated comedy Family Guy in 2005. He appeared in the film American Pie Presents The Book of Love. In 2011, he reprised his role as George Jefferson for the final time, alongside Marla Gibbs as Florence Johnston on Tyler Perry's House of Pain. Helmsley was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame in 2012. In 1989, Helmsley, who had been a jazz keyboardist, released the single, Ain't That a Kick in the Head. This was followed in 1992 by Dance, an album of rhythm and blues music. He appeared on Soul Train around the time of the record's release and also performed the song Eyes in the Dark. Helmsley was an enthusiastic fan of 1970s progressive rock bands, including Yes, Gentle Giant, Gong, and Nectar. Unlike the characters he played, Helmsley was a shy and intensely private man. Described by some as reclusive, he avoided the Hollywood limelight, and little of his personal life was public knowledge beyond the facts that he never married and he had no children. In 2003, however, Helmsley granted a rare video interview to the Archive of American Television. Playing George Jefferson was hard for me, but he was the character. I had to do it. On July 24, 2012, Helmsley died at his home in El Paso, Texas at age 74. The cause of death was given as superior vena cava syndrome, a complication associated with lung and bronchial carcinomas. He had a malignant mass on one of his lungs for which chemotherapy and radiation had been recommended. And according to the El Paso County, Texas Medical Examiner's report, unfortunately, on August 28th of that same year, an El Paso news anchor interviewed Flora Isella Enchton, the sole beneficiary of Helmsley's will, who said that the two were friends and had been business partners for more than 2 decades. During this time, she lived with Helmsley and his friend Kenny Johnston. Enchton told the Associated Press that Helmsley never mentioned any relatives. Some people come out of the woodwork. They think Sherman. They think money, Enchton told AP. But the fact is that I did not know Sherman when he was in the limelight. I met them when they, Helmsley and Johnston, came running from Los Angeles with not one penny when there was nothing but struggle. A Philadelphia man named Richard Thornton claimed to be Helmsley's brother and the true heir to his estate. After contesting the will, Thornton halted progress on funeral arrangements, and as a result, Helmsley's body remained at the San Jose Funeral Home in El Paso and unburied for months. Then on November 9th of 2012, the legal battle over Helmsley's body ended when Judge Patricia Chu ruled in favor of Enchton. A military funeral was planned for Helmsley, and he was interred at Fort Bliss National Cemetery in his adopted hometown of El Paso. And there you have it, friends. The 11th anniversary of the late, great Sherman Helmsley, who played George Jefferson all those fantastic years. You will forever be in our minds and our thoughts and prayers. We thank you for a fantastic career. All right. Coming up next, we're going to briefly look at what day is today, and then this is an editorial. That's all coming up in the last half hour of our show, and we'll be right back right after this.
Its name of origin is Theobroma, food of the gods, but we know it as chocolate. This may be the first time you've seen natural chocolate, and this may be the first time you've really tasted it. Breyers all-natural ice cream, nothing artificial. Just fresh milk, real cream, pure sugar. So that true chocolate taste really comes through. Breyer's ice cream. It's like tasting chocolate for the first time.
My health club always had Pert Plus in the locker room. It cleans, conditions. It's great. Then one day they switched. This one said it had conditioner in it, but my hair told a different story.
Some 2-in-1s don't lather as well or leave hair feeling as clean. Others don't fully condition. But Pert Plus's microbead conditioner leaves hair clean and completely conditioned.
So now when I go to my club, my Pert Plus goes with me.
Pert Plus. There's no 2-in-1 like this one.
What's this? Married 6 months and already your wife's using spaghetti sauce from a jar?
It's okay, Pop. This is Prego.
Prego, listen to me. The ingredients of a successful marriage. Garlic.
It's in there.
Little bits of real herbs and onions for that homemade taste.
Pop, look, it's in there.
And you need...
Whoa, huh?
It's in there.
100% natural Prego spaghetti sauce. Homemade taste. It's in there.
Enjoy extra sugar-free gum.
Get extra flavor, extra fun in extra sugar-free gum.
Extra, the only leading sugar-free gum with NutraSweet, gives you extra refreshing flavor that lasts an extra long time.
Extra flavor for that extra long play. Extra flavor for that extra long day. When you chew it extra, the extra fresh flavor lasts an extra long time.
Extra lasts extra long.
Birch, beech, maple, hickory. America's great hardwood trees. They help make smoked sausage made on the Hillshire Farm, America's great tasting smoked sausage. Hillshire Farm uses its own special blend of hardwood chips from these great trees to slowly, gently, delicately smoke its sausage right on the farm. They do it the old-fashioned way to give you all the flavor you want in a smoked sausage. That's how Hillshire Farm makes America's great tasting smoked sausage in Polska kielbasa.
All right, welcome back to DMS 3000 News Live on the David 3000 Network. Episode 28 is coming up to its last half hour here, and tomorrow on the program, we're going to be looking at an interesting scenario situation. Over the weekend, they celebrated the 50th anniversary of Bruce Lee's death, and we'll look at Bruce Lee, the Kung Fu master and legend of other great styles, and movie fanatics all over across the world are celebrating 50 years of his passing. So we'll look at that definitely as one of the things tomorrow. And of course, what day is today on that? And we have one today that we're going to pick up with you in a little bit. Plus all the other great stuff. We'll come up with some other great stuff for you later on in there. Keep an eye out for the promos. You never know what's going to be happening. All right. So with that in mind, let's look at what day is today. I got one that I wound up picking up here today, and I think it's fitting for today. It's National Tequila Day. Yes. We don't promote drinking here on the show, but we'll make an exception for all you tequila drinkers out there. Is there any better way to enjoy some blue agave juice than bottoms up? We can't think of any, but we can tell you that there's an entire day dedicated to the stuff. July 24th means National Tequila Day, and National Tequila Day means 24 consecutive hours, 1,440 consecutive minutes, and 86,400 consecutive seconds of honoring good times had with your favorite liqueur over salt and lime. Just enjoy those good times responsibly. Don't swig that beautiful blue agave elixir behind the wheel, and don't read up on its storied history in Mexico, the broader American Southwest, and beyond. And do read up on it. I'm sorry. So tequila's precursor, a milky, frothy agave drink known as pulque, dates back all the way to the Mesoamerican times circa 1000 BC, when indigenous Mexican tribes would commonly harvest and ferment it. It wouldn't be until 16th century AD, however, that the contemporary tequila we know and love would be produced, first produced around a territory of land that wouldn't officially become known as tequila until 1666. That wouldn't stop Spanish aristocrat Don Pedro Sanchez de Tagle from opening the world's first tequila factory 66 years prior in Jalisco, the Mexican state where the modern city of Tequila is located. It definitely wouldn't stop Don Jose Antonio de Cuervo from founding the first Vino Mezcal de Tequila de Jose Cuervo in Tequila over a century later in 1795, birthing the world's most successful tequila brand to this day. The origins of tequila are fairly well documented, but unfortunately, the history of National Tequila Day's origins are a little murkier. Not much can be found on who originated the holiday, what originated the holiday, and why it takes place on the dates it does. Perhaps the originators imbibed a little too much on their own supply to remember. Regardless, common Zeitgeist rules that National Tequila Day take place on July 24th in the United States, and the Mexican Senate just ruled in 2018 that their own occurs on the third Saturday of every March. Wow. So 1000 BC, the drink of the gods, the indigenous peoples drinking alcohol made of blue agave they call pulque. From the 1500s, the Spanish invade Mexico and begin cooking agave in distilling pots, calling it mezcal wine. 1795, Don Jose Antonio de Cuervo makes the first Vino Mezcal de Tequila de Jose Cuervo in Tequila, Jalisco, Mexico, birthing the modern tequila industry. And in 2006, the Tequila Trade Agreement. The U.S. moves to block a proposal that tequila must be bottled at the source in Mexico, stating that it puts thousands of jobs at risk. So the Tequila Trade Agreement is created, stating that the U.S. may continue to import tequila in bulk to bottle it within their own facilities. So here are the survey results, info obtained by a top Hispanic marketing agency. They surveyed 3,000 people about their favorite tequila beverage, and they found that 44% of them like them, right? But only 32% love it. And 17% dislike it, and 7% hate it. 76%, according to our national according to our national survey, over 3/4 of Americans enjoy drinking margaritas, and almost 1/3 of them love them. 30% of Americans say margaritas are their favorite happy hour drink. Frozen versus on the rocks. How do you prefer yours? Well, it looks like 33% prefer their margarita over ice. 67% prefer a frozen one. And 65% like a salted rim. And 67% prefer a glass with no salt. 41% of Americans think men who drink margaritas are lightweights. Ooh. Yeah, believe a man drinking a margarita is fun-loving and a bit of a lightweight, 41%, but 50% believe a woman drinking a margarita is energetic, outgoing, and a bit shallow. Oh! More Margaritaville stats. Here's the breakdown of the rest of our National Tequila Day survey. 3% say they judge people who order them frozen. Frozen margaritas aren't real, 3%. 24% say I can't just drink one. 5% says I always get a sugar hangover from them. 30% say margaritas are my favorite happy hour drink. 15% say margaritas are always deceptively something else. 15% say I only order margaritas on vacation. 1% said I never order them because I hate them. 24% said I never made my own margarita. 4% said I never ordered a margarita. 26% says I always lick the salt off the rim of my and 14 say they never lick the salt off the rim. Wow. So that is look at it, and here are the traditions of the day. With tequila, you choose the moment. Whether you are a social drinker who wants to share it with friends or just relax at home after a long day at work, National Tequila Day is all about enjoying tequila. There are several categories of tequila: Blanco, Anejo, Reposado, and Jovan, which are tasted and experimented with by connoisseurs and newbies alike. And contrary to popular belief, wine is not the only drink that can be paired with food. Tequila can too. You just have to find the right meal to complement it with. Special deals and promotions on tequila are also available today at pubs and bars, so be sure to take advantage of them. Here are the numbers. The regions of Mexico where tequila is produced: 5 is the number. 51% of the drink is derived from blue agave. And 8 to 12 is the number of years it takes for blue agave plants to be harvested. 7 feet is the maximum height of the blue agave plant. 5 is the number of classifications of tequila. 40 is the number of new tequilas introduced in 2012. And 2.3, the number of tequila consumed per adult in Nevada every year. 9% is the percentage increase in consumption of tequila in America in 2019. 1.3 pints, the amount of tequila consumed by Mexicans in a year per person. And 2 to 12 months is the time it takes to age Reposado tequila in barrels, almost a year. So today, drink up. And what better way to celebrate National Tequila Day than by enjoying the very drink that gave the holiday its namesake? Consider hitting up a new area bar or liquor store you haven't checked out before, and consider bringing some company along. And drink inventively. If you're a casual drinker, even if you are one, you're likely already familiar with the quintessential tequila sunrise, the ubiquitous margarita, or the never-fail classic combo of juice and or soda. But do you know how to mix up a Serrano spiced Paloma, tequila shandy beer cocktail, or a color-changing margarita? Try something different this year and opt for a more creative cocktail, whether it's one of the above or one of the countless recipes you could discover through a quick Google scroll. And, of course, drink responsibly. We're all for holiday hedonism, creature comforts, and enjoying some good times in the company of friends and loved ones, but please do so responsibly. We cannot stress this enough. If you've had a few rounds too many to hop behind the wheel, don't be afraid to hail a designated driver, an Uber, a Lyft, or a cab to help you get home safely. There you go. Here are finally the 5 facts of tequila. It takes time. Many liquors are aged, but the agave plant alone needs 8 to 12 years of growth before the farmers can harvest and ferment it into tequila. And tequila is not always agave. While it's true that most tequilas are derived from agave plants, Sotol tequilas are actually derived from a similar Mexican plant with a milder and nuttier taste known as desert spoon. Without a doubt, the U.S. is the biggest recipient of Mexican tequila exports at 204 million liters in 2019. That's over 40 times more imports than even a country like Germany. Agave is harvested with a special machete tool known as a kodajima, and the farmers tasked with harvesting it are known as jimadores, or jimadores, And the tequila worm, is actually found mostly at the bottom of mezcal bottles, a similar spirit, and its addictive effects are largely suspected to be a marketing ploy myth. Wow. And why we love this day. As we mentioned before, the blue agave plant must grow almost a decade or more before it can be meticulously, painstakingly harvested by hand to make tequila. And it can also only be grown in 5 regions of the entire world, all of which are in Mexico. As you appreciate the rich taste of your tequila of choice, appreciate the rich history and agricultural work that went into making that tequila. There's no shortage of tequila cocktails and recipes that you can throw together. It can be so easily distilled and blended into a wide variety of craft mixes, but tequila's earthy taste is unique to tequila spirits and tequila spirits only. Is it any wonder that there's an entire day dedicated to its wonderful flavor? And if you're celebrating the Mexican incarnation of National Tequila Day, then you'll always be celebrating on a Saturday. If you celebrate the American iteration, then you'll be celebrating over a weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, July 24th. For the next 3 years, is there any better time to have a good time? Well, there you have it, folks. National Tequila Day in all of its glory. Pretty interesting. Of course, there's other stuff out there, but I think this one was the highlight of them all. All right. And now for your editorial today. With about 15 minutes left in the program, I'd like to address this situation to everyone. As we come pause the last week of July and we tap into the new month of August, and we realize that with half a year gone already, 2023 has become a year of many things, some good, some bad. And what we have to realize is that even though we've encountered some bad things in our lives, the good will always outweigh the bad. And no matter what we try to do, in any which way, shape, or form, we're going to struggle a little bit. But not to the point where we would fall on our face or do something so dramatically as suicide. Now, we're not recommending that you go ahead and do these things. We don't tolerate that kind of behavior. We think that if you are in a position where things are so far-fetched that you have dug a hole to that situation, as to seek professional help. And there are places where you can go to get that help if need be. If things are bogging your mind down so badly, there are situations where you can get some help for that. First thing is talk it out with friends and family, people who are close to you. I think if you reach out to your family first and then to your friends, your most inner circle of friends, those who you trust your life with and have known for quite some time, I think if that's your first source of help, that would be your best resource, because family and good family will always stick together no matter how tough the times are out in the world. Okay? Then if anything else fails, you can reach out to the resources from your local police station if you need help there. City Hall is always a great place. County services, you can always go on the county website of your state and the county you live in as well, and try to figure out a way to get some help that way. Most of the programs are free, and if you can try to see if you can get a situation where it's going to take a little bit more, you might also want to contact your insurance company just in case you might have to go into the hospital or something, for where insurance covers things like situations of that sort. Whatever the case, this editorial is to basically help you know that resources are out there at your disposal. Take advantage of them, because in the end, you're the one that has to make the final say of whether or not you've accomplished what you've accomplished. Whatever your story is, whatever your situation is, remember, you are you, and only you can help yourself. It's good to talk to friends and branch out, but in the end, you still have to put effort into your recovering situation, whatever happens. Whatever your situation is, I hope that you get through your situation safely and as quickly as possible so that you can move on and have a fantastic life in health and in freedom. Also, too, note that we on the DMS 3000 News Live, we give you the stories that also help you touch base with reality a little bit. The stories that you like to hear may be up on a future program, but we won't know unless you actually drop us a line. So if you want to hear a specific story, or if you have an idea that we might be able to bring across the weeks ahead, drop us a line at the David 3000 Network, either to myself or to Brandon Martin, and we'll definitely find a way to get that story or that piece of information out to everyone. The critical thing that we need to realize is we all need to work together to make things happen. Doing it alone, not all the time is effective. And we realize that teamwork is a big thing in our lives. And it's great to reach out to people who have the time to do what's necessary to make things work. And if that's the case, then I know everything else will be solved effectively and as fast as possible so that we can all have a fantastic road ahead, no matter where we go in our lives. We wish you the best. God bless you. Remember, always be honest, be real. Keep it simple, stupid. Yes. We'll see you tomorrow for episode 29 of DMS 3000 News Live. I'm Jason DeCanio, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to the David 3000 Network for great more content like this one.